Okay, we are live. Gonna let it breathe just for a moment here. Bring on Facebook. Get the whole fam damly under the same roof. You know what I'm saying? Everybody. It's gonna be a gas, and we're good. So welcome in everybody. It's the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, there are some rumors I want to get to tonight, but off the bat, first things first, we got to hear from Vance Joseph for the first time since that historic, embarrassing loss in Miami. What were what were some of your takeaways from what he had to say today?
I mean, he accepted responsibility, but he really had no choice. I mean, a historic loss like that, 70 points, yada, yada. He said, I'll have to fix it quickly. It's on me first. And that's just like, this typical coach speak that you would get in these situations. What surprised me and didn't surprise me, considering how incompetent VJ is, quite frankly, was that he admitted that the Broncos were not prepared for or caught off guard by the Dolphins' speed. Now, how is that possible? It'd be like being caught off guard playing Peyton Manning, that he was a smart cerebral quarterback. Like, the speed is what the Dolphins are known for. That's their biggest calling card. That's Mike McDaniel's feather in his cap. So how do you go into that game and come out of it saying we weren't prepared to combat the one attribute the opponent has? It's just, he didn't mean to, but in my interpretation, it dug his grave a little deeper, because it proved that he's not the right guy for the job, Chad.
Here's what Zack is talking about on the second question Joseph fielded today on why the defense struggled against the Dolphins. Quote, it was a combination of a lot of things. I didn't get them ready for the speeds, the angles, and these things to have them in the right positions. Again, I take it first, meaning the responsibility. We go back, look at it, and make sure when we game plan for a team like that, we do better. It always falls on me, et cetera, et cetera. But then, Zack, what's interesting is he goes on to say in multiple spots, the players are always giving max effort and trying to do it right to win the game. Um,
If that's max effort,
I'm not sure that was true in Miami. At least after about the third score, when they realized how outmatched they were and just like we're not ready for this. I'm telling you, a lot of those players gave up the ghost in that game anyway. I'm not saying they cashed in on the season and they're checked out now, but Zack, okay, cool. You took some accountability for what it's worth. What else are you supposed to say as to echo you? But I wouldn't have minded hearing from Coach Joseph like, hey, you know what? Our linebackers got to tackle better. You know, our safeties have to recognize routes quicker. Our guys need to get upfield that are rushing the passer faster, whatever. Like, put some of the onus on these guys because they were as complicit. I mean, we can sit and blame VJ and for good reason, but those players, that was shameful. And they were the ones out there on the grass.
well, how come the offensive players didn't give up then? The same guys coached by Sean Payton. It's a direct indictment on their boss, VJ being the boss in this case, if you just roll over and die. And they literally did. It looked like a grenade went off when A-Chain ran for that big touchdown. They literally just said, forget this business decision. I'm not going to try anymore. The game's over. You're right. What else is he going to say? But you're never going to get the type of accountability from Joseph that you're looking for, Chad, that I'm looking for. Because think on it. Go back to 2017, 2018, when he was the head coach and the Broncos had ugly losses. Not as ugly as this one, but ugly nonetheless. Did he ever come out and start finger pointing? No. He's very much like Nathaniel Hackett in that he wants to be everyone's friend. It's all kumbaya. He's a player-friendly coach to the max. And that works when you're winning. But it goes off the rails quickly when you start losing, as we saw with Hackett, as we saw with VJ the first time, and as we're seeing with VJ the second time.
Well, he said he can fix it and will fix it fast. Well, we're going to talk about that. But first, a couple of hellos to some great Super Chat superstars that jumped in early, including and starting with Sam Bam in the house. What's up, brother? Really appreciate you. He says, hey, guys, hoping the Broncos get their first win this Sunday. Not going to hold my breath, but I think after that embarrassment on Sunday, they will come out hungry and fired up. Go Broncos. Yeah, Zack, if our read on Sean Payton was even like 50% correct, then this will come true. They'll come out there kind of like, do you remember the Von Miller, we're going to whoop their ass game against the Cardinals? Remember that back during the VJ era?
Thursday
Um,
night.
and it was kind of like that, where they're coming off a couple of embarrassing games, not to obviously the scale of what was in Miami, but they got all pissed off and they took it out on an inferior team. There were a few teams worse than the Broncos at the time, and in that moment, Zach, Arizona was. Do you see that being not just a possibility, but a probability? Broncos whooping up on the Bears. I mean, it is a road game too.
I hate to answer a question with the question, but are the Bears an inferior team to Denver at this point? I mean, they're both dumpster fires. I would say the Broncos have a quarterback advantage, some positional advantages, but it's not the time for any sort of get right. The Broncos haven't earned that, Chad. They should have been pissed off after week 1, losing at home to the Raiders and Josh McDaniels and blowing them in the fourth quarter. How'd they respond in week 2? They blew an 18-point lead in the second half. The defense gave that away as well. Sean Payton said, if next week could come tomorrow, I would welcome that, something along those lines. But to me, it's all this right now. It's all talk. Go out there, handle your business. But let me tell you something. Even if they whoop on the Bears, even if they beat them handily, it's not going to remove the stink of the first 3 weeks, and especially week 3.
No, that's going to linger a little while. David McElrath, a.k.a. the Papa Bear in the house. What's up, brother? Very generous super chat from you, my dog. Thank you. Hope you and yours are doing well and that everyone in your family is hanging in there, big dog. Appreciate you. He says, fire sale. Let the rebuild begin. Indeed. So an article today, actually it came out, it published yesterday from Albert Breer of the mothership at Sports Illustrated. And it was just one of his mailbag articles, kind of par for the course. Every week he does one. This one very Bronco-centric. And, of course, everyone's Zach's perspective, let me put it this way. Everyone's expectation of the Broncos coming out of week 3 kind of shifted from, hey, they're striving for competitive relevance in year 1 under Sean Payton, to blow it up. They're not even close. Like, they're not even close. Like, it's a far cry from this team being competitive. Look for them to really be sellers at the trade deadline at the end of October. And Sean Payton can stockpile all the resources he needs to rebuild the team fully in his image. And so, obviously, guys like Albert Breer, they're seeing which way the winds are blowing. But he mentioned 5 names, Zach, and one additional name that he says untouchable. The 5 names, I'll throw them out there real quick: Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Garett Bolles, Justin Simmons, Randy Gregory, as trade pieces to watch ahead of the trade deadline. What say you?
The untouchable is PS2, and Mike Liss kind of reported the same. He said there was no way that the Broncos would trade Surtain. I'm assuming even for a first-round pick. The players that you mentioned, though, I mean, this is what I was saying before. Even if you beat the Bears, is it going to salvage the season? Historically, the odds are not in the Broncos' favor to make the playoffs. So if they beat the Bears and then go on another losing streak, they lose to the Jets or the Chiefs after that, all they're going to be doing is temporarily hurting their draft position. In my opinion, maybe I'm a little more pessimistic after week 3. It seems like a rebuild to some extent is inevitable. And it seems like someone, if not multiple people, are going to go no matter what the Broncos record is, because they're going to be in cap trouble in 2024. Bloated contracts and overpaid veterans. This is their last year, maybe their last couple months in Denver. But more directly, if that's the way they go, if they do blow it up, I'm not going to shed any tears over those 4 players.
I wouldn't shed any tears if the Broncos dealt Patrick Surtain, honestly.
Ooh.
In the spirit of, okay, it's total rebuild, blow it up. I wouldn't, let me qualify that I wouldn't shed tears PS2 thing. I wouldn't shed any tears over dealing PS2 away, provided it was the commensurate King's ransom. Like, as long as that return was what I believe he's worth, then I wouldn't shed any tears over it, because Sean Payton, if they're going to rebuild it, if that's what it ends up coming to, is going to need his resources. And this has been a team operating on very few draft resources in recent years. Troy, brother, the Fawn Donkey in the house. What's up, bro? Thank you. He says, hey, guys, I don't mind a fire sale with Gregory and Sutton, even if we are doing better. In fact, I'm fine trading Gregory for a day 3 pick right now. And Marvin Mims, Brandon Johnson make Sutton expendable. Look, not only, I mean, Mims, his play has spoken for itself, Zach. Earlier this week, he kind of soft campaigned for more touches, and I think you're going to see Sean Payton and Joe Lombardi oblige him. Meanwhile, Johnson has been, a couple of inexperienced, he's not a rookie, but rookie-type mistakes that have been a little bit costly, but I don't think they've eclipsed some of the massive plays this dude has made 3 weeks into his second NFL season. So he's a really exciting player. And Sutton, I don't know, man, something just isn't clicking with him. And it really hasn't, Zach, since the injury, obviously, back in 2020. But, just when he's starting to make some headway and you go, all right, this guy's finding his groove, fumbles, trying to do too much. All right, well, shoot, dadgummit. It's going to happen once in a while. He's only fumbled twice in his career. What was it? Those memes, a few moments later or whatever. It's like all of a sudden, Sutton, fumble number 2. He's now matched his entire career total in one game. Something's up with him. So Randy Gregory, I'm not sure, unless it was just a super desperate team that maybe had a coach, Zach, that knew him from back in Dallas or something. I don't know how much value he has. He's done jack squat since he donned the orange and blue.
The thing with Sutton we have to remember was how much smoke was surrounding him this offseason with trade rumors. It seemed like it was a certainty that he'd be dealt by Denver. Peyton has no loyalty to him. He wasn't around when he was drafted. He wasn't around when he got his contract extension. And I think they try to make it work with Sutton to be that Michael Thomas 2.0 in Peyton's system. The thing about Michael Thomas, though, his hands are reliable. He doesn't drop many passes. He doesn't fumble many balls. And maybe those 2 fumbles like you were talking about were the nail in Courtland Sutton's coffin. They did bring in Traquan Smith, former Saints receiver, for a workout, and that led to more speculation that one of the receivers, probably Sutton, would be traded. But the thing with Gregory, he's underperformed. I've been a proponent of his. It hasn't worked out. You can't really deal him, though, until at least Baron Browning comes back in week 5, because you have to field a starting defense. You have to field both sides of the ball, even if you blow it all up, even if you go through a rebuild. Who would be the starter opposite Jonathan Cooper without Randy Gregory? Frank Clark's still out. It'd be Nick Bonito.
It'd be Bonito, yeah.
I mean, you can't really justify doing that. So I would not be shocked at all. In fact, I'm kind of half expecting it by the trade deadline, but I don't think anything's going to happen with him until then.
I just don't think another component to kind of throwing cold water on my excitement to trade Randy Gregory is his contract. You want to talk about, not being commensurate. That's another factor, but some good news. Frank Clark, he's going to miss this week, but he's talking like he thinks he'll be ready to go the next week. So we'll see. Zeus in the house. The first face etched on the MHH Mount Rushmore is this cat right here, Stu McPeak, a.k.a. Zeus. Hi, right back at you, my dog. Hope you're doing well. Zach, Zeus and so many of our listeners and members of this community have suffered a long, long time with us watching this Broncos football and trying to make sense of it on the live streams.
Too long, way too long. And that's what upsets me the most on the gut reactions or just, tough losses. It's people like Stu and Michaela and everyone in our chat, all our great supporters and our friends on this podcast. I wanted for Broncos country so bad. And I wish I can snap my fingers and they'd be a playoff team. Hang in there, guys.
This is a good point by Scott. I'm glad you mentioned this. Nick Bonito, he played about 50% more snaps than Randy Gregory last week in that blowout. Meaning, I think that it may already have happened. That's your new starter. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out maybe this week in Chicago. But Mike, the Ronk in the house. What's going on, big dog? So good to see you. Appreciate you being in the stream with us tonight and helping us keep the conversation going, my friend. What about Garett Bolles, though? He's kind of the forgotten man in all this. He's been maybe not, we're not talking the second coming of Joe Thomas this year at left tackle, but he's been probably the least weak link. I'll say he's been. I'll say that Garett Bolles has been solid, dude. Has he been good, meaning above average? Maybe, I don't know, maybe slightly, but he certainly hasn't been a turnstile like Mike McGlinchey. Ben Powers has had his moments, but mostly he's been a little bit of a disappointment. Cushenberry, enough said, and Miner's solid too. Mm-hmm. But what do you get for Bolles on a trade?
Highly paid left tackle, never really lived up to his draft pedigree, has a history of holding and personal fouls, kind of a, I don't know, a hot-tempered individual. Fourth round pick. I don't know. He's not going to go for a 1. He's not going to go for a 2. And his contract being what it is, I don't think he'd go for a 3. Maybe a conditional 4 with the ability for it to become a 3. But it's the same question I have if you deal Gregory. Who would you plug in at left tackle? Cam Fleming? Then you're just getting your $245 million quarterback unnecessarily drilled, who you're probably stuck with for at least one more year. All for what? To a 4th round pick?
I don't know, man. Even though Charlie, bro, good to see you tonight on Facebook. Appreciate the stars, my dog. Really, really. Thank you, buddy. Claude says, fire sale or not, orange and blue for life. Got to get back to what used to be the standard, winning, whatever it takes. Well said, Claude. Well said, my friend. We're keeping our fingers crossed. But, Russell Wilson's contract going into the season, I'm like, guys, they're not doing anything. It's moving on from him would be too tough as far as the dead cap. If they basically field another Zach, well under sub 500 season with Russ, I think they just roll the dice on dealing with the dead cap, and they either cut him or they trade him. But even if they trade him, they're still on the hook for a lot of dead money. I was looking at that today at Over the Cap as I was writing up this Breer aggregation. So I just don't know how you justify it. Nathaniel Hackett, it is what it is. But if Russell Wilson with Sean Payton can't elevate the Broncos to a winning product, let's say, that I'm not sure anything will ever really make a difference. Like something either just changed with him or what. I'm not saying that's what is now. I'm saying it by the end of this year, it's looking like it is now, and it doesn't change. Then I'm no longer saying, guys, no way the Broncos are able to move on from Russ in 2024. Like, if they do a fire sale and if they say, all right, we're tanking and we're rebuilding, then what do you need Russ for? You don't. And he's more of a hindrance to the effort of rebuilding, especially if you go out and get your quarterback next year. You'd be in the draft. You'd be better off saying, hey, let's say you get, number 1 overall pick just for craps and giggles here. Hey, Caleb, go learn from Jarrett Stidham for a couple of games and then you're going in. That's all you need. You don't need Russell Wilson in the circus, so to speak. Unfortunately, I hope it doesn't come to that. I'm telling you right now, I hope it doesn't, but I've changed my view on that specific topic.
In my view, in terms of getting rid of players, blowing it up, fire sale, I feel like they can deal right now. They can pick players from positions of strength. So if they want to deal a running back or wide receiver, like Sutton, they can, because they have others waiting in the wings. If they want to deal, who was I just thinking of? Who are we talking about? I forgot.
Bolles?
Yeah, that's my counterpoint to that. They don't really have, they're not that deep at that position. Gregory was the guy I was thinking of, because they have other edge rushers that can step up when Baron Browning's healthy. You can't do the same thing with Bolles. So to make it more exact, soon, if they lose to Chicago, you could definitely see Sutton going, but I think it might be till at the end of the year or after the season when they move on from players like Garett Bolles. No two situations are the same here.
The Duchess in the house. So great to see you tonight, Michaela. Love you. Appreciate you. She's saying, can't wait for the meet and greet. Amen. It's going to be here soon, guys. Week 7. That's October 22nd. We're going to be out there looking for everybody with the big MHH tent. You're going to see all kinds of MHH flags. Well, it'll be easy to find us, and we're just looking forward to hanging with Michaela and so many of you who we already know are planning on making the trip. So she says, do you know how bad parking will be? We'll see. I don't know. I mean, by the time you get to week 7, if it continues as a dumpster fire on wheels, maybe half the stadium is showing up and maybe parking won't be so bad. I don't know. But she says, trade Sutton and Gregory for a bag of rice. LOL, Zach.
I think in Gregory's case, it might be all he's worth. I mean, I again was a big fan of his, but there's a reason why Dallas let him go, and $70 million, they haven't gotten nearly enough out of him. In terms of parking, though, Michaela, I can't think of the name specifically. You might have to ask around, but I believe there's like an elementary school or some sort of school not far from the stadium that has parking for cheaper. So you might want to look into that. Excited to see you out there in week 7, though.
Brad in the house. Pardon me. So good to see you, Brad. You've been really coming on strong lately, my friend, in the chats, throwing down supers, helping us keep the lights on. Definitely earning the moniker an MHH Super Chat Superstar. So thank you, Brad. He says, "What's up, fellas? I got nothing tonight, but here's some coin. Keep doing what you guys are doing. You're keeping most of us sane." Well, we are going to keep rocking and rolling thanks to our great community and superstars like you, Brad. But believe it that you guys keep us sane during these times as well, because like I said, when it was going on, when that beatdown, Zach, was happening last Sunday, I entered for a time a brief fugue state where I was just like kind of just stunned. I was just like, wow, really? And then my wife was asking me, so why do you think you started feeling kind of like just weird like that? And I'm like, I don't know. And then it came to me. I'm like, actually, I was really not looking forward to jumping on the podcast that night. Not because I didn't want to talk to you guys, but because I would be feeling your pain. I'd be going, oh man, it's going to be a dark one today, but it must be done. We got to exorcise this demon. So I'm going to always show up. Zach's going to always show up, come hell, come high water, whatever the case may be, as long as you guys keep showing up.
Ain't no high water lately. You know, I'm thinking back, we've been doing this together since 2018, I'm pretty sure. And we've been, all of us, along for a hell of a ride. All the losing seasons and the COVID year and Nathaniel Hackett and now Sean Payton. I would be sitting here, no lie, in a straitjacket, mumbling to myself, rocking back and forth as if it wasn't for this podcast and having some sort of outlet to talk to you all. So we're as appreciative as you guys are. Believe that.
For what it's worth, some research from Mr. Producer. Bolles is currently the number 22 ranked offensive tackle via Pro Football Focus, with the number 9 cap hit. So that's a kind of a off kilter. Grover, what's up, bro? Elway. Yeah, indeed. The vest, you know, it lingers on some of those Elway moves. Grover, you're another one of those names, my brother, that just keeps coming on strong and consistent every week, and we really appreciate you. He says, I've been a Broncos fan ever since Super Bowl 21, so I've seen plenty of lows, but I can't recall this stretch of not even being competitive. Ready for a rebuild, starting with a new coordinator, Denver Broncos for life, MHH for life. You can't recall it because it didn't exist, my friend. It didn't exist. The Broncos, you know, from the time I first remember following and watching the Broncos, about 87-ish, and I was like 6-7 years old, maybe 86. But during the Elway era, you would sometimes, Zach, have like one down year. Maybe if memory serves, like under the Wade Phillips regime, maybe 2. But then no mas, like it bounced back and at least competitively relevant. Like maybe not a playoff team this particular year or whatever, but like they're pushing, they're relevant. They're not lay down suckers that every NFL team circles as like, aha, yeah, this is going to be a gas. Can't wait for this one. We can all kind of like take it easy. That's what it's become, though. Like, even think about this. Mike Shanahan, Zach, got fired. The winningest head coach in Denver Broncos history got fired for 3 consecutive seasons of missing the playoffs. The worst they finished, if memory serves, over that 3-year span was 7-9, which was 07. That was the year Cutler was sick and they didn't know why, and he lost all that weight. And then they realized, oh, he's got type 2 diabetes. Get him his medicine, comes back the next year, rocking and rolling. They have a great start. He's on a Pro Bowl path, and then they finish with a flat tire, losing their last 3. He gets ganked, does Mike Shanahan, and then Cutler gets dealt away. But I'm rambling a little bit only to show you that those were just very temporary pit stops, Zach, in the history of Bronco canon. Yeah. We're talking now not only 7 straight years of missing the playoffs, 6 consecutive losing seasons. They're fixing to make it 7 if Sean Payton doesn't get a hold on this thing quickly. And that's why, look, I just don't, there's so much pressure in the league, Zach, and there's so much expectations, and things can get out of hand and take on a life of their own very quickly, as evidenced by that game in Miami. That's why you don't really see coaches, even or NFL teams for that matter, really truly transparently tanking. It's also part parity is what really makes the NFL king of the hill. So I think Sean Payton, come what may, he's gonna, if this season goes down, he will go down swinging, for better or for worse.
Yeah, I mean, you laid it out pretty well. The only thing I can really add is that these are uncharted waters, and we're all trying to wade through them together as best we can.
I mean, it's just almost like this whole losing funk, this world of suck. It's like, to use this phrase one more time, it has taken on a life of its own, and it's gotten to the entire organization from the top down. And I think it's really led to a lot of strange psychological phenomenon where, like, everybody is pressing to one degree or another. And you know how it is, man. Like, when you are, if that's your like standard operating procedure and you don't even know it, dude, that comes out in the wash in so many ways. Charms, what's up, bro? Felt defeated and angry on Sunday. These guys need to know they represent the fan base. People were acting like someone died to us Broncos fans. I know, dude. I had a few calls and texts and messages and whatnot from friends, family, and acquaintances that were like, the kind of thing, Zach, where you check on your bro who you just found out their wife left them. You're like, you doing all right, bro? You're gonna be okay. So I feel it. Brad says, again, thank you, Brad. It's really hard to swallow that we are the new Browns/Lions from a few years ago. Hey, 7 now going on 8 consecutive losing seasons. That's just, you call the spade a spade. It is what it is, Zach.
Well, someone did not die, but something might have died, and that was the Broncos season after 0-3. And Sean Payton said the same thing. No one passed away. Then he got into a weird story about Bill Parcells' horse that was put down. I don't really understand what he was talking about yesterday, but the thing with the new Browns, the new Lions, look where Detroit is now. They went through a lot, arguably a longer stretch of futility than the Broncos, but you can turn it around really quickly in the modern NFL. Rebuilds don't have to take 3-4 years. You can do it in 1-2 tops. You have to get the right coaches in place, and you have to get the players bought in. We think that, except for VJ, the right coaches are in place. Now it's just creating a culture of winning, and that might take a little bit.
And you know what? Even if you end up having a kind of in over his head defensive coordinator, but the players are out there really giving it their all. They're trying hard, and they're being encouraged, Zach, by an offense that's carrying more than its fair share of the water. For the last many years now, even predating the world of suck, the defense has carried more than its fair share, right? Like even 2015 Super Bowl 50, that season, it was the defense that carried most of the weight that led to the success the team had. It's now time for the offense to do some of that heavier lifting. And it would not only take some of the pressure off of these guys, but I think it would also encourage them and be like, okay, like, it's not only up to us. And if you really, I'm going to put on some orange colored glasses real quick with this next comment here, and I'm serving it back to you, Zach. If you look at the offense through 3 games under Sean Payton, you did a good job of illustrating this. I think it was Monday night, but don't look now. Russell Wilson, based on the statistics, is currently a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. That's not the only positive harbinger so far of what we've seen. They're just a little bit out of sync and just a couple of steps, fractions of steps away from things really going gangbusters potentially for Sean Payton's offense. Like, even in that Miami game, they were on pace to at least keep up and not make it a complete blowout before the first Cortland Sutton fumble, and then it kind of got out of hand, and then all those different hijinks down in the red zone where touchdowns were getting wiped off the board. You clean some of those things up, and this could be, maybe not, we're not talking Dolphins caliber offense, obviously. We're not talking, 2013 Broncos. We're not talking Chiefs, but top 15 offense takes a lot of pressure off a defense who's being coached, Zach, by a guy who's quite obviously in over his head.
You're 100% right. The offense has to be better in the second halves of games. They've seemed to disappear in the third and fourth quarters. That has to be better, Russell Wilson included. My only thing I take issue with, for years, Chad, 7 years, pretty much, the defense carried the offense. It was always one side of the ball was so much better. The scales were so tipped in one side's favor. I wouldn't want that to be flip-flop now. I'm so happy the offense is improving, but the best teams have complementary football. Look at the Eagles, for example. Good offense, good defense. You can't just rely on one side. That's how mutiny happens. That's how fractures happen. The Broncos have to come together as a team and start winning football games. You just question if they have the coaching on the defensive side and the players on the defensive side.
Well said. Guys, we're sitting here on the 28th day of September. And you know what that means? We're only a couple days left to get in on the Super Chat contest for our monthly rankings. Scott, you want to throw it up? Here's where it stands through basically yesterday. Doesn't count what's happening tonight. But as you know, we take the top 10 finishers on Super Chat in a given month, in the month of September. Their names go in a hat. We do a raffle. The winner live gets a Broncos jersey of their choosing, and it's just a small thing we've devised to give back and say thank you to the great supporters we have in our community. So here's your rankings. Number 1, it's a tie right now. Am I reading that right? Okay, Naj, clearly number 1. Scott went like this. I mean, it's a tie right now. It's like, Naj, King of the Hill, as it stands. Love you, big dog. FA at number 2. The Lady D at 3. The Duchess at 4. And by the way, Deanna's climbed a little. Very cool to see. Michaela still holding 4th in the top 5 at number 4. Ethan, a.k.a. the DWI guys, at 5. Troy at 6. Gary at 7. That's the swashbuckler himself. We're going to be seeing him in October. Stoked. Zeus at number 8. Gregory Vendeland at number 9. And Casey Nickel, been doing some climbing. Leapfrog Chris, Leapfrog David, Patriot Tex, and Jasmine to get into the top 10 with a couple of days left. And tonight counts, guys. So really tonight, we'll say 3 days left. So anyway, very, very grateful and appreciative of everyone. If it's 99 cents out of your pocket that you give us, we take that with the utmost seriousness and pride and gratitude. And I hope you guys know that. So, Zach, just some thoughts on the rankings, and then we'll grab Naj.
Just to echo you, I mean, just your interaction alone, guys, we value more than anything else. But when you go above and beyond, we try to give back as much as we can. We try to express it every show, how grateful we are. Not a day goes by where Chad and I don't think to ourselves that we're blessed to have this podcast and talk to you each and every day. So thank you all.
Amen. Naj, number 1 himself, the King of the Hill, needs no introduction from us. Love you, big dog. He says, all this talk about tanking, fire sales, etc. just stinks. It's bad enough being the joke of the league, dealing with loss after loss and hopelessness. My hope is these guys bust their butts, coach and execute better, and win. It's still within the realm of possibility. It really is. Okay. Is it within the realm of probability? Maybe not. We went through some of the historical distinctions relative to 0-2 starts, 0-3 starts, what it forecasts, statistically speaking, for teams in the NFL. Obviously, 0-3. What was it, Zach? I think one team in the NFL that has started 0-3 since 1979 made the playoffs, if I remember right, from that article Eric had. So anyway, it's improbable. Doesn't mean it's impossible. And again, if this was just, Zach, any run-of-the-mill, first-time new head coach hire, I really would be saying, like, hey, nobody get your hopes up. Like, give up the ghost. I mean, enjoy it for what it's going to be. We get to watch the Broncos play football. Hopefully they're competitive in a few games or whatever, but do not get your hopes up whatsoever about even a chance of a turnaround. But it's Sean Payton. So I hold on to a little bit of a fraction of a chance, Naj. There's always a, first time for everything, or, the exceptions that prove the rules at.
Well, I mean, Naj, hope in one hand and crap in the other. See which fills up first. No, I'm playing. I do think, on a serious note, that the Broncos players will come out, like you talked about earlier, Chad, a little more pissed off, angry, taking their aggression out and all their problems out on what may be an inferior Bears team. But hopefully the worst is behind us. I said that last year. I said that in week 1. I said that in week 2. And then the Dolphins dropped 70 and the Broncos lost by 50. So we have to hope, though, that we're going to get to that high water, Chad, and out of the hell.
Well said, big dog. But Naj, we're keeping it open for the possibility. Yeah. The Duchess again coming in. Love you, Michaela. She says, I don't get the Russ hate. Right now, he's having a nice season, same stats as Mahomes. Also, as far as his contract, if the Broncos asked in the spirit of winning, he would restructure it. I don't know, man. I don't know. I want to believe that your read on that is correct, Michaela, but I don't know. Maybe if it's like, hey, you want to stick around, you were dreaming to play with Sean Payton under Sean Payton in Seattle. You finally got your wish in Denver, and now we need you to take less money. We need a restructure. Do you want to stick around and have a chance to keep playing for Sean, or is it about the money only? Maybe he would. I don't know, but I'm with you on the not understanding the Russ hate, where it comes from. But unfortunately, Zach, the fact that Sean has coached him back into a top 10, status through 3 games is completely getting overblown and overshadowed, I should say, by the 0-3 start and the context and complexion thereof.
I mean, we've talked about the Russell Wilson hate at length for the last year, pretty much. I mean, it is what it is at this point. Russell Wilson, no matter if he's a top 10 quarterback, if he's a top 5 quarterback, he's going to get criticism. It's just, it comes with the territory. I've learned with number 3. In terms of his contract, though, I understand why Broncos fans would feel this way, but he's under no obligation to restructure or take less money or accept a pay cut just because Brady's done it or other quarterbacks have done it. He signed what the Broncos put in front of him. So Michaela or any other Broncos fan is still complaining about his contract. I would take that up with George Payton, the man who cut the deal, and not Russell Wilson, the guy who signed the deal.
Exactly. We'll see how it shakes out. Scott, he's more dubious about the possibility of Russ ever accepting a pay cut or restructure if he was asked, but we'll find out, perhaps, Michaela. We shall see. Okay, where are we at? We're at 37 minutes. We're doing pretty good right now on time, but this is your reminder to get in any questions, topics into the chat now before we do run out of time, because we get carried away. We lose ourselves, and we have a lot of fun. So get it in now, or else we shall forget. Steve Hale in the house. What's good, big dog? Good to see you. Appreciate you. He says, Semper Fi. Right back at you, bro. Lots of talk about firing individuals. I don't like the 70 burger we just ate, but even the best have their really bad days. But I think it's going to be about the response. If we don't respond, there's a big problem. Exactly. And that's one thing we said, Zach, both Sunday night after the game, the gut reaction, and the aftermath episode Monday is, people immediately wanting to start talking about tanking and fire sale, right? And it's like, well, let's wait and see what happens this week. If it's more of the same this week and this team falls to 0-4, if they do not take care of business this week, then we'll pretty much have our answer. And the Broncos will too. Like an 0-4 start, under Sean Payton. It's one thing, Zach, to start 0-4 under Vic Fangio, right? Back in 2019. You don't even notch your first sack of the season until week 4. That's one thing. But for that to happen under the competent, experienced championship leadership of Sean Payton, then you maybe finally go, all right, we got to accept our situation. And that is too many holes on the roster. We're weak at too many spots. We got to start kind of angling for the fire sale, and we're going to put our best guys out there and try to make it. But at the same time, we got to start thinking beyond 2023.
If they lose this game to Chicago, the worst thing that could happen going forward is if they win like 6 or 7 games and just finish with like a 13th, 14th overall pick. At that point, I wouldn't advocate for tanking, but I wouldn't advocate for not tanking either. You would have to start getting into the proceedings of rebuilding, blowing it up, seeing who you want to trade away, and honestly preparing for 2024 at that point. You go 0-4, 2023 doesn't matter anymore. It's all about the future. And honestly, it might already be about the future as it is at 0-3.
Brandon Williams on Facebook jumping in. Thank you, Brandon. Good to see you tonight, my friend. He says, any predictions on how many players you think the Broncos trade away before the deadline if we lose to the Bears? So in that Albert Breer article, as I mentioned, he floated 5 names. What do you think, Zach? I would say if it is an 0-4 start and the Broncos just face the facts that it ain't happening, I could see, it does take 2 to tango. You do have to have willing trade partners, and the value you get back has to, at least be close to what you view the personnel you're relinquishing. So I would say as many as 3, possibly, if it truly is, oh crap, 0-4, and it just kind of continues in that vein leading up to October 31st. Then, I mean, it could be a real bloodbath, in all honesty. But I don't know if you have a specific prediction.
Whoever has the most value. I was going to say the same thing. You have to find a dance partner. Just because you want to get rid of the players doesn't mean the players are wanted by another team. And who would have the most trade value on the roster? That would be Patrick Surtain, but it seems like the Broncos are not going to trade Patrick Surtain. Then you go down the list. Maybe Justin Simmons. I mean, maybe for a second-round pick. If a playoff team wants a receiver, maybe Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy. Failing that, though, would any team want Garett Bolles at his contract? Would any team want Randy Gregory at his contract? Maybe Josie Jewell, but he's always injured. He's injured right now. So that's the issue that I've come around with, is they don't really have the talent. And when you can't even name a surefire trade candidate besides the one untouchable, it proves that deficiency.
I don't think you'd have a hard time moving Justin Simmons. Like, of all the names, I think if you wanted to get something for Simmons, you definitely could, provided he, gets and stays healthy. I mean, it's encouraging where he's at so far this week, but we'll see. We'll see.
I would take a 2 for him easily.
Yeah. Okay. Turning the page real quick. Charms. Let's talk positivity. Jay Sims will be back. Drew Sanders will be getting some experience. And now Marvin Mims is in the plans per Peyton. What do y'all think? Hey, I love being positive. That's like my standard posture on life. And as I mentioned just a couple of super chats ago, I'm not giving up on the possibility the Broncos could potentially, maybe, just possibly be that exception to the rule that finds a way to beat the odds after an 0-3 start. So I'll try and play ball with you here, Charms, even further. Let's say you get Jay Sims back this week. Drew Sanders, Sean Payton's view on Drew Sanders' ugly debut as a pro in the regular season was, hey, didn't matter who was out there that day. Like, if you were debuting in the league against the Dolphins in that game, Zach, like, you could be Lawrence Taylor, and you're just not. It's not going to be a good representation of who you are as a player, and what your NFL career might become. So Drew Sanders, though, it's looking like, Zach, he is definitely going to be getting a lot more playing time with Josie Jewell, his injury, and Marvin Mims. There is some positive stuff. You just got to get a hold on this defensive thing, and you got to figure out how to get this team out of the loser's habit, Zach, of giving up the ghost at the first sign of adversity instead of striving and overcoming that and having the short memory. That, honestly, last week, throw it out. That's been this team's biggest problem dating back multiple coaching staffs, is things are going good. Things are going good. I mean, even think about, Zach, that Minnesota game with Fangio. Remember his first year, up 20-0 at halftime. All it took was one thing not going their way to open the third quarter, and the floodgates opened, and they immediately believed we were right. We're not winning this game. We were pretenders the whole time, and they just allowed the Vikings to come back. It's that same mentality that had stretched back over time across multiple coaching staffs, basically from the beginning of the first Vance Joseph era on, and until and unless Sean Payton's veteran coaching and his staff can figure out how to get on top of that and start tweaking some mindsets and whatnot, it's going to be really hard to overcome it. But I think they can.
Winning begets winning, and losing begets losing. It's really as simple as that. Sanders, it's not easy. You're right to have your, crash course against Miami, but he was capital B bad in that game. I mean, bad. He's going to be a future starter at some point, and the reps are, paramount for him. Same with Marvin Mims. A little stat that you might know, Chad, others might not know. He leads the NFL, Marvin Mims does, in yards per catch, 27.9. Another number for you, 16. That's how many offensive snaps he's averaging per game, which is ridiculously low. He needs to be elevated, and for my money, he's the Broncos' number 1 wide receiver. He's overtaken Sutton. He's overtaken Jeudy. He's a big play waiting to happen. He's what the Broncos thought they were getting in KJ Hamler and so much more. That is your foundational bedrock. And I'll say this, if there's one untouchable on the Broncos roster, it might not be Surtain. It might be Marvin Mims.
Yeah, he leads the team in receiving yards right now. So, and he was a guy that it's really hard to predict any rookie outlook, but especially receivers. He was a guy, however, if you guys recall, that I said, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes on to have the type of rookie season that is, an outlier relative to how most rookie receivers usually takes 2 years, year 2, year 3, when they pop. He's popping already. And I'm touching wood as I say this. I think he's going to have a Pro Bowl caliber season. Like, he's going to be in the conversation for all those type of accolades, so long as he manages to stay healthy, because this is what Zach, he was able to accomplish without really being the focus, without the light bulb kind of coming on for Sean Payton. Now you're going to see him worked in significantly more regularly. You're going to see that 16 snap average climb. But the flip side to that coin, Zach, is now he's on radars, right? Teams are getting the film on this kid and they're going, okay, we got to have a plan for it. But the flip side to that coin, we're just flipping coins. We're like Peaky Blinders, just flipping coins. Is that then if teams adjust in that way and start selling out to stop Mims, well, Jerry Jeudy, come on down. Cortland Sutton, come on down. And that's when the floodgates really can open on things just going gangbusters for an offense led by a competent play caller and quarterback.
What's so exciting, though, about Mims is that even if he draws more defensive attention, his speed is so deadly. His ball tracking skills are so deadly. His contested catch ability, as we saw in the Miami game when Russell Wilson was being drilled, he went up and got it over 2 defenders. That's elite. It's hard to defend that. So he's going to blossom fairly quickly. And the Broncos would serve themselves well by accelerating the process of moving him up the depth chart.
Indeed. All right. By the way, have you started Peaky Blinders yet?
Like an episode.
Yeah, dude.
But I got the reference, though. It was pretty funny.
You got to muscle through maybe the first 3. And when I say muscle, it's not that it's not good. It's really good. But for things to really start coming together and you start going, okay, investing in the characters and what's going on. And then, dude, you're going to be like, to heck with writing about the Broncos, to heck with everything else. I'm going to see what happens next. It's really, really, really good. Gave me a whole new appreciation for that dude that played the Scarecrow in the Batman movies, Cillian Murphy. Quick shout out to Nick Hale. See you in the chat, buddy. He says, what are your predictions for Sunday's game? Both teams need to win. How do the Broncos bounce back after a shattering embarrassment? That's a good word for it. Is there any hope for this season? I'd love your thoughts. So you're going to have to, unfortunately, we got to disappoint you on the specific prediction. Check the Mile High Roundtable article tomorrow by about lunchtime for our specific predictions. But, Zach, I'm 0-3 in the predictions. I think only James Campbell and Tom Hall. Oh, I'm probably getting one wrong, and they're going to hear this and complain about it in our little Slack channel for MHH. But are the only ones to have really gotten anything. Did you pick? You picked the Dolphins, so ahead of last week. I mean, but I'm 0-3. I'm not the best guy to ask on predictions when it comes to these things, because I kind of get really screwed up in swinging for the fences. I start going, here's how I see the game going, Zach, but I'm going to pick a different way because I got to try and make I got to make some headway in this, in the records that we kind of use for pride's sake amongst the staff. But I'm going to tell you right now, that being said, I think the Broncos win this game and win back a small modicum of momentum, or establish, I should say, a small modicum of momentum. And I'll tell you right now, though, guys, of all the seasons, wouldn't shock me if what I'm telling you right now is 100% wrong, and they find ways to stoop to heretofore unprecedented, unseen lows.
I mean, they made Sam Howell look like Joe Montana. They can make Justin Fields look like, prime Michael Vick. I'm 1-2 in the roundtable, so maybe I'm not the best person to prognosticate either. Maybe ask me again on Sunday at 2:00 Mountain Time. I'll have a better answer for you. I do think, though, they'll win this game. They have to. The odds just point to eventually the Broncos coming out on top and the ball bouncing in their favor. But whether you'd have hope is subjective. Hope as in they can go on a playoff run, or hope they can win 7 games. Two different scenarios. Anything could still happen, and I think it starts Sunday with a victory. We'll see what happens after that and how they respond.
For what it is worth, Scott has it Broncos 16-13. He's given you the actual score prediction. We'll spoil that for now. Zach, at 50 minutes here, do you want to go through a quick head-to-head? I mean, we're 4 weeks in. There's enough subject matter material there where it means a little something. Let's do a
defense.
Let's do a quick examination, and then we'll dip on out of here. Real quick. All right, hold on. I'm just pulling up the share screen. Get this rolling for everybody. Yes, I want this. Yes, it's pretty small, right? It's not on the screen yet. Will you put it on the screen, Scott? Or wait, yeah, there you go. Okay, can you see that? Okay, Zach.
Can you zoom in a little more?
Let me try. All right,
that's perfect right there.
250%. Okay, so both 0-3 teams, obviously, and as you can see up here, green signifies top 10, red bottom 10, and then if it's black, right in the middle. So both teams are tied at 27th for turnover margin at -4. That means they've given the ball away 4 times more than they've taken it. Time of possession, this is really ski-wampus for the Broncos because of that Dolphins game, but the Bears are bottom. I mean, there's only 3 teams worse than them. If we look at the offense, though, look at this, Zach. Nothing but red with a couple of black distinctions. Like, for example, they only have 2 fumbles lost, tying them for 19th. Their red zone percentage isn't the worst. They'll convert 6 out of 10 red zone trips into touchdowns. The Broncos have only 2 top 10 offense distinctions in the key categories, and that is yards per play. They're ranked 8th, and then passing yards. So as a passing offense, Zach, they're 8th, the Broncos are in the NFL. Meanwhile, everything else, I mean, look, net yards, they're middle of the pack. They're top 15, so, like, we'll take it compared to what it's been. Points per game, they're 15th. Again, we'll take it. 23 points compared to how it's been the last few years. We'll take it. Rushing, that will improve, I think, with more sample size. The Broncos will be a better rushing offense. But where things start really getting going sideways is, first of all, the fumbles lost thing. Sutton's 2 last week, obviously, have accelerated that. And then it's these bottom 3 categories, Zach. Broncos have given up 10 sacks, which ranks them 24th. It's a bottom 10 ranking. On third down, they're only moving the chains 34% of the time, which ranks them 24th. And then red zone, they're only converting 45% of red zone possessions into touchdowns. So before we get to a cursory overview of the defenses, what are your takeaways here?
I can't unsee that. Under defense, 30-second, 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 29. I mean, god damn. The Broncos offense is a lot markedly improved, and I think you're seeing it. We would all kill for the black there, like the smack dab middle rankings, and they have some green. Yards per play is pretty exciting. 15th in net yards per game, 12th. And, only 2 picks that Russ has thrown. The sacks still scare me, though, and they have to be better, Chad, in the red zone, especially in the second half. That's what I mentioned earlier. Yeah, like 95% of this is on VJ and the defensive side, but the offense has done the team little favors in the third and fourth quarters, and that's, I think, reflective in those numbers.
Defense, as Zach
Christ, man.
previewed there. All right, here's your Broncos defense through 3 games. 32nd in yards, 32nd in yards per play, 32nd in points. They're averaging, 70 points in a single game is going to obviously throw off your average. But 40.7 points per game is what it leads to as far as an average. 32nd rushing defense, 29th passing.
They have one takeaway.
One singular solitary takeaway. Only 4 sacks. That's another brutal component that is exacerbating.
All came in week 2, by the way.
That's right. And in the first half, basically. And then third down, they're not too bad. They could obviously be better, but that's not the worst thing. This is brutal, allowing I mean, basically, if you're a Bronco opponent, you get to the red zone, you're guaranteed a touchdown 8.5 times out of 10. Unacceptable. All right. You can't, intolerable. No. Meanwhile, Bears, they're not much better. And here's the thing to keep in mind, Zach, is they don't have this massive 70-point outlier to tip the scales like the Broncos do. And yet they're the 29th yards defense. They are the 31st scoring defense. They're allowing 35 points a game. And then,
head coach too.
Worst third down percentage, one of the worst red zones. So your thoughts, and then we'll turn the page.
Fire Vance Joseph. Next question.
Look
at those numbers, Chad. That's the only thing you can say in response to that is fire Vance Joseph. Enough said.
I mean, just real quick, punt return average. You got to love this. We've only seen the Broncos return one punt. All right, because there haven't been that many. And Marvin Mims returned at 45 yards. So that's an outlier. But kickoff return average, that's very healthy. Thank you, Marvin Mims, 44. So very nice to see. And then penalties committed. Hey. There's some good news here, guys. The Broncos are no longer 32nd in penalties committed. They've worked their way up to 30th. So, they're chipping away at that, Zach. Time will tell. David, bro, thank you. Here's his prediction. Broncos 28, Bears 9. I love it. That would be a nice confidence-building victory. I would love it. It would be like manna from heaven, Zach.
One last thing to point out on that graphic, with penalties, the Broncos were 29th, whatever it was. Opponents are tied for 5th in penalties. Yep. And there's that narrative that the refs are against Sean Payton or the Broncos. It doesn't exactly dispel that, Chad, when you see the numbers laid out as they are.
Well said. Scott, are we caught up? Okay, guys, we got a couple messages for you, and then we're going to dip.
Another tremendous episode of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on Twitter at the MHH Pod. You can follow the Mothership account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch, like we're always rocking each and every day, check out mhhmerch.com. And if you haven't, drop us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. On Instagram, you can find us at mile_high_huddle. And also make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some of that merch each and every single month. But if anything, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Amen to that. Shout out to these great Super Chat superstars and supporters. We'll start with the Facebook supporters. Actually, we'll start with YouTube. Sam Bam, David McElrath, Troy, Zeus, the Duchess, Brad, Grover, Charms, Naj, Mike, Michael Parker, Steve Hale, much love and respect on Facebook. The Ronk, Charlie Young, Claude Riley, Brandon Williams, and then Eric Weber jumping in here saying, "What's up, Priest, Senior Scott, and Broncos country? I say Broncos go off and beat the Bears soundly, 33-17. MHH and Denver Broncos for life." Oh, here's the postscript. Fire VJ, Zach. And then the Ronk, great show. He says, "Thank you, brother. Really appreciate you." But guys, Zach and I, we're done for this week, but let not your hearts be troubled, because tomorrow morning you get some Legends of Mile High with Thomas Hall. You get Dove Valley Deep Divers Friday night. You get Orange and Blue View Saturday night. And then we will be coming to you middle of the day, because it's another early start for the Broncos, 11 a.m. kick Mountain Time. So we'll be coming to you live for the gut reaction right around 2 p.m.-ish Mountain Time, 4 p.m. Eastern. So can't wait. It's going to be fun to break it all down, win, lose, or draw.
That's right, guys and gals. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Sunday night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.